Today, we are counting down 10 legendary tractors that refuse to die. We are counting down the 10 toughest tractors ever built. Machines so resilient, they outlasted factory warranties, survived economic crashes, and kept running long after their owners retired. From iron castings that scoff at modern breakdowns, to engines built before planned obsolescence was even a phrase, these legends prove durability is not just a claim, it is a way of life. Along the way, you will see proof: logbooks with 5-digit hours, tractors that beat Arctic winters, and survivor stories from war zones and droughts. Some endured with only grease and sheer stubbornness. Others hide engineering secrets mechanics still talk about today. But only one will stand at the top, revealing why it became the symbol of immortality on 4 wheels. Let us begin the countdown with number 10. In the hills of Yorkshire, a David Brown 990 rolls out before sunrise, its cast-iron gearbox still shifting smoothly after more than half a century. Built in England starting in 1961, the 880 and 990 models gained a reputation for being nearly impossible to wear out. Farmers trusted their thick steel, simple hydraulics, and mechanical fuel injection, no computers, no fuss. Service manuals from the 1960s promised reliability, but nobody guessed just how far these machines would go. There are logbooks from British farms showing 15,000, even 20,000 hours with only basic repairs along the way. One 990, bought new in 1964, logged over 23,000 hours with a single major overhaul. Most cars do not last a tenth as long. What kept them going was not luck. It was overbuilt engineering, gearboxes that could take a lifetime of hard shifting, and engines designed to be rebuilt on the kitchen table. The David Brown does not shout for attention. It just keeps working year after year, proving that some machines were built to last longer than the farms they served. In the far north of Sweden, winter can freeze the world solid. Yet, on a January morning in 1978, a Volvo BM tractor rumbled to life as the thermometer hovered near -40. Local farmers recall rituals, plugging in block heaters, wrapping fuel tanks in old blankets, and trusting the Arctic package that came with insulated tanks and heated fuel filters. The secret was in the engineering. Factory glow plug heaters baked the cylinders warm before dawn, while heavy-duty batteries and winter oil kept everything moving. Mechanics in Norrbotten still tell stories of the 2600 series, starting when trucks and cars failed, engines coughing to life in air so cold your breath crystallized. Manuals promised reliable starts at -30, but with extra care and the right options, these tractors kept going even deeper into the cold. In the land of endless frost, the Volvo BM didn't just survive, it made the impossible routine. A Case IH Magnums 7120 sits on an Iowa farm, its hour meter frozen at 22,694. The logbook is thick with decades of notes. It records every oil change, every clutch job, every winter spent in the shed. This is not a relic from the 1960s. This is a tractor built in the late 1980s, running well into the 21st century. Farmers and mechanics know the secret. Magnum engines were built for punishment. Massive iron blocks, heavy cylinder heads, fuel systems that shrug off dust and heat. When the hours pile up, a Magnum does not get scrapped, it gets rebuilt. Parts are never a problem. The CNH dealer network keeps shelves stocked, and a mechanic with the right wrench can have a Magnum stripped and running in a weekend. Some say electronics would spell the end, but these machines keep going, outworking newer models. 20,000 hours is not a legend. It is documented, page by page, in farm logbooks across the Midwest. In the battered fields outside Mostar, a Belarus MTZ-82 stands with holes torn through its hood, scars from the Balkan Wars of the 1990s. This tractor kept running while shells fell and supply lines vanished. Farmers patched radiators with tin and wire, welded fenders from old car bumpers, and scavenged parts from neighbors or barter markets. The MTZ-82 was built for this: stripped-down mechanics, no delicate electronics, just thick steel and a diesel heart that could be nursed back to life with whatever tools were at hand. In Bosnia, one owner drove his Belarus through harvest with half the panels missing. the engine cooled by a homemade radiator fashioned from scrap. Club testimonials and photo evidence show dozens of these machines still working, decades after the fighting stopped. They're kept alive not by luxury, but by necessity and grit. Proof that sometimes the simplest machine survives when nothing else does. On a scorched farm outside Kitui, Kenya, a Kubota L-Series tractor rolls out before sunrise, its orange paint dulled by dust and years of relentless work. During 5 consecutive seasons of drought, when crops withered and neighboring tractors sat silent, this compact diesel kept moving. The secret is not brute force or heavy armor. It is a design built for survival, a simple manual gearbox, no electronics to fail, and an engine that sips fuel and shrugs off heat. Local service logs from a community cooperative show the same pattern year after year: oil changes, new filters, the occasional tire swap. No major breakdowns. When a hose cracked, the dealer in Nairobi had a replacement within days. That is the real power behind the L-Series, the global web of parts and dealers stretching from Japan to the heart of Africa. Mechanics at Car and General, Kenya's main Kubota distributor, say these tractors are rarely down for long. Even after 3,000 hours of fieldwork, most repairs are routine. For small farms facing harsh seasons, reliability is not a luxury. It is the difference between harvest and hunger. The Kubota L does not boast or bellow. It just starts, runs, and keeps going, season after season, proving that sometimes the simplest machine is the one you can count on when everything else fails. On a corn farm outside Decatur, Illinois, a battered red IH 1066 sits in a shed. Its hour meter has been broken for a long time, but the logbook tells the real story. It records 26,500 hours in the field, 2 complete engine overhauls, and the same original crankshaft and block still holding strong. Farmers and mechanics across the Midwest know this tractor's secret. The D414 engine is a block of iron, built for torque, with oversized bearings and conservative tolerances that shrug off decades of hard pulls. The design was simple, almost stubborn: no turbo, no electronics, just a big inline-6 that could be rebuilt in a weekend if you had the right parts and a strong back. Receipts from the Illinois farm show regular oil changes, a couple of clutch jobs, and nothing more dramatic than a new water pump every few years. Local mechanics say they have seen dozens of 1066s cross the 20,000-hour mark, but this one is special. Its logbook, thick with grease and notes in 3 different handwritings, tracks every repair from Carter to Reagan to Biden. The bottom end of the engine, the crank, the rods, the block, almost never fails. With 2 overhauls and a little luck, these tractors just keep going. For the IH 1066, outlasting the farm's original owner was not a miracle. It was just good engineering. A Zator 5211 sits in the corner of a check barn. Its red paint is faded, but the engine is still eager. Designed in Brno during the 1980s, the Zator 5211 and the 7211 were never about brute power. They were about clever survival. The secret is the modular design. Engines, clutches, axles, and even cabs were built to swap between models, sometimes across decades. Mechanics in Moravia joke that you can rebuild a 5211 from 3 broken tractors and a box of bolts. But it is not just a joke. In the archives of the Zator Museum, parts charts show how a single gear or hydraulic valve fits half a dozen models. That is why when the Iron Curtain fell and official parts dried up, owners kept their machines alive with salvage, barter, and a network of local workshops. There is a family near Brno with a 5211 that has worked the same fields for 3 generations. Their logbooks, written in 3 sets of handwriting, track every clutch job and oil change since 1987. Photos show the tractor at a wedding, at a harvest, and at a funeral. It is always present, always running. Zator clubs across Europe keep the parts flowing and the stories alive. For these owners, the tractor is not just a machine, it is a legacy. The modular design means that as long as there is a neighbor with a wrench and a shed full of spares, the 5211 and the 7211 will keep working. That is why they are still out there, proof that a clever design, shared knowledge, and family pride can outlast any planned obsolescence. A battered red Massey Ferguson 135 stands in the yard of a Lincolnshire farm, its paint dulled by rain and sun, but the badge still bright. For the Jameson family, this tractor is more than a tool. It is the thread that ties 3 generations together. It was bought new in 1972. The logbook records every season, every repair, every hand that turned the key. Family photos show the 135 at weddings, haymaking, even a christening, always in the background, always ready to work. Across Britain and Ireland, stories like this are everywhere. The Massey Ferguson 135 is the most inherited tractor in Britain and Ireland, passed down from father to daughter, uncle to nephew. Clubs and ploughing matches still fill with these machines, each one wearing its history with pride. Owners gather for annual runs, swapping stories and spare parts, keeping the 135 alive not just with wrenches, but with memory and ritual. The secret is not just in the engineering. The simple Perkins diesel, easy to find parts, and rugged gearbox all help. But it is also in the way the community refuses to let these tractors fade. When a clutch slips, someone knows a neighbor with the right part. When a bearing grinds, a club member offers advice over tea. The Massey Ferguson 135 survives because it is family and because it means something. On small farms and village greens, its steady heartbeat is a reminder. Some machines last because people choose to remember them. For the Jamesons and thousands like them, the 135 is not just a tractor, it is a legacy, still working, still loved, 50 years on. A blue Ford 5000 rattles down a dusty lane in rural South Africa. Its paint faded, but its heart unbreakable. Launched in 1965 with a 75 horsepower diesel, the Ford 5000 was never the biggest or the flashiest. Its secret was scale. Over 500,000 rolled off assembly lines, headed to more than 100 countries. In the UK, it became the backbone of wheat and dairy farms. In Turkey and India, it powered rice paddies and cotton fields. But nowhere did its stubbornness matter more than in the drought-ridden heartlands of southern Africa. During the long dry seasons of the 1980s, a farming cooperative in the Free State Province faced a crisis. Rain did not come. Crops shriveled. Most tractors sat silent, waiting for parts that never arrived. The Ford 5000 kept moving. Its engine, simple, rugged, and forgiving, shrugged off bad diesel and dusty air. When the injection pump wore out, a mechanic swapped in a rebuilt unit from a neighboring farm. The original engine block stayed bolted in place season after season. Service logs from the CO-op show a pattern: clutch jobs, water pumps, new tires, but the same core engine working through 5 failed harvests. Mechanics say the secret was parts. Every village had a stash. Every dealer had a shelf of spares. Even decades later, aftermarket suppliers in Europe, Africa, and Asia keep the shelves stocked. This was the Ford 5000's real trick. Its design was not just durable, it was adaptable. Farmers in Ireland tuned the fuel pumps for wet grass. Operators in Kenya bolted on extra filters to fight dust. In Brazil, the same chassis pulled cane carts and grain drills. The powertrain, always hovering around 70 to 75 horsepower, fit every job that needed doing. And because millions were built, the parts network became a lifeline. The Ford 5000 did not survive on myth or memory alone. It survived because when something broke, there was always a fix, sometimes in the next town, sometimes in the next field. On every continent, these tractors still work, proof that sometimes the most unstoppable machine is the one the whole world can keep running. A battered green tractor sits in a Nebraska shed, its paint worn thin by decades of sun and rain. The hour meter reads 38,412. This is a John Deere 4020, a legendary machine for generations of farmers and mechanics. It is more than just a machine. It is the answer to a question whispered across fields and workshops. How does a tractor outlive everything built before or since? The secret starts deep inside the engine block. When Deere launched the 4020 in 1963, their engineers made a choice that defied the trends of cost-cutting and disposability. They poured high nickel iron for the block, thick as a ship's hull, strong and unyielding, with reinforced webs and main-bearing saddles. Mechanics who have cracked one open talk about oversized bearings, the forged crankshaft, and the way every surface seems built to shrug off punishment. Service manuals from the era spell it out: conservative tolerances, generous oil flow, and enough steel to handle rebuild after rebuild. In teardown shops across the Midwest, it is common to find a 4020 crank still in spec at 20,000 hours. One mechanic, with hands blackened by decades of work, says you do not see spun bearings on a 4020 unless someone forgot oil for a year. Longevity is not just about brute strength. Deere's engineers went modular. The 4020's powertrain was designed so a farmer or a local mechanic could swap out a clutch, rebuild a hydraulic pump, or even pull the engine without exotic tools. Standardized O-rings, accessible bolts, and a layout that made sense to anyone who had ever fixed a baler in the dark. When something wore out, you fixed it. When something broke, you replaced it. The 4020 was made to be fixable. For 50 years, Deere kept the shelves stocked with original parts, aftermarket kits, and a network of suppliers stretching from Iowa to Australia. Service records tell the rest of the story. Nebraska test farms documented 4020s running 30,000, even 38,000 hours, with only a handful of major overhauls. Logbooks show engines swapped at 12,000 hours, transmissions rebuilt in the field, and original blocks still working after half a century. In the hands of careful owners, these tractors became nearly immortal. Every major component, engine, transmission, axles, could be rebuilt or replaced without scrapping the machine. They lived on through droughts, floods, and market crashes, outlasting owners and outworking machines half their age. The real secret is not just metal or parts. It is a philosophy born in Deere's engineering memos and lived out in barns and sheds around the world. Build it strong, make it fixable. Keep the parts coming. As long as there is a mechanic with a wrench and a farmer with a need, the 4020 will refuse to die. Now, as the sun sets on another long day, the old green tractor cools in the yard. Its story is not finished. Somewhere, another hand will turn the key, another page will fill in the logbook, and the legend will roll on, steel, sweat, and memory, refusing to quit. Across all 10 machines, one pattern stands out. True durability is found in simplicity and serviceability. These tractors were not just built to last, they were made to be reborn year after year by the hands that needed them most. That legacy still shapes farms today. Real endurance is engineered, not advertised. The iron refuses to quit because the people behind it never did. Which tractor's story hit home for you?